motion then to approve the agenda where we go, animal control is item 1, CERT is item 2, traffic calming item 3, SCR 4, and city manager contracting rule 5.
Second.
Okay, all those.
Aye.
All right, thank you for that adjustment, everyone. And next up is the approval of minutes from the July 25th City Council meeting. Are there any questions or comments regarding those minutes? Any public comments regarding those minutes? I see no comments, so back to the council.
I'll move that we accept the move the minutes from 7.
All right, is there a second?
No.
All right, a second by Councilor Tuttle. All those in favor? Aye. Next up is our council reports and committee assignments. And this is the time when the councilors report back on the committees, the meetings they've attended or other important topics. I'll start with you, Jack Tuttle, that you're in. You
Not have anything to report.
Okay. Councilor Breckenridge.
It's not actually a committee report, but it is something important. I happened to go to the Sir Fraser discussion of the quarry. There was a Steve Madron and Ted Peace called the meeting, and I was just interested. So I turned out I seemed talented.
But thank you.
Coincident. It was coincident. Happy because it was there were 20-30 residents from the area from around who live around the quarry. And they have
Hey, Google, this timer for 20 minutes.
which I have a list to send out if you want to do it. I can tell you.
I just want to listen.
What is it?
City council meeting.
There we go. No, that was someone else talking.
Oh, somebody else.
Yeah, no.
Just briefly, so I won't hold the meeting up. The complaints included inconsiderate dumps, truck drivers, reports residents' cars off the narrow road, dust, truck traffic, and toxic impacts to health from adverse air and water quality, including pollution of Parker Creek. And then questions about damage and what are their actual rights. And the representative from Mercer Fraser was very agreeable and hopeful to take these complaints back and see what could be done. So even though they're not in the city of Trinidad, they're general community.
Thank you. Thanks for attending. Councilor West.
I have a brief information from HCOG. There's right now they're working on the housing interests that are throughout Humboldt County, and we saw some videos called "Creating the Grove," which is from the Arcata House. Those are out there on the HCOG website. I didn't have the address. I didn't get the address before I came, but if you're interested, you go on HCOG, you can find out what they're doing. The Arcata House is pretty interesting right now. They've managed to start putting a motel, I believe, together with housing, and they have moved 60 people from the streets into the housing, and they're hoping to start seeing Arcata as this takes place. It was a big step in the right direction, and they're pretty excited about it. So they have 3 videos to show what they've been doing. So if you're interested, you can see that on the HCOG website. I'm hoping that maybe down the road I'll get a chance to show those so you can see what they're doing. It's interesting. And Caltrans is working on the Indiana undercrossing. So if you haven't seen what's going on, they're really making a lot of progress, and you're going to see the things change as they begin to build the undercrossing. And so if you can, as you notice what's going on, this is taking place, and you're going to see within the year probably the whole under crossings take place and the trail in place. So they're moving along fast. It's pretty exciting to see what they're doing, and they're putting in piles, is what they call it, 3 feet dug into the ground to support this thing because the mud is, or the dirt is so, it's not strong enough to support this underpassing. So as you see go by, you'll notice that some of the big machinery up there to drive these things in and to get the overpass, or it's called an undercrossing, so that you'll see that start taking place. And it's also going to shut down lanes. So it's going to be about next year, you're going to see a lot of slowdowns on the traffic going into Eureka from the side. So be aware. They also are talking about the Annie and Mary's Trail info that should be up. They're hoping to get that up soon. So that looks like it's going to take place. So a lot of good things going on in terms of trails and what our roads are going to look like. So pay attention. It's good. Good stuff.
Just got a quick question. Did they say anything about cutting down the eucalyptus trees? Because I noticed they were cutting some of them down.
Yeah, I thought about that. I forgot to ask about it at the meeting, but I'll try to remember to find out. But it looks like they plan to cut down some. I think they're going to leave the rest up. I'm not positive.
Okay.
There's a good article in the local about that,
Okay.
about why they did it and what they're doing.
Oh, okay, great. I'll check it out. Thank you.
And I'm thinking what they've cut is what they're planning to have cut. And the rest that's remaining is what's the remaining. I think that's what it was. They said the northern portion is the one they want to cut down.
Yeah.
And to keep the southern
I
portion.
see.
So once you get, when you're driving south, you get to where Schmidbauer is. So from their drive on is the southern portion. And that's currently intact. And from my understanding, at least it will remain for a certain period of time.
That's what I understood too. So hopefully.
So Redwood Region Economic Development, a couple of things they're working on. They continue to explore ways to increase housing in the community, working with lots of different agencies. And so they're also continue to have a very active loan program for a lot of local businesses. So if you're in Dictator Chocolate, if you're in the Oric area and want to stay in the Redwoods before going to the park, these are a lot of places where Redwood Region has really brought a lot of support to local businesses to thrive. They also have a microloan program. So I've said this in the past, but really their mission is when a small business is not quite a good risk for a bank, they come in and support the business in keeping afloat or starting fresh. So it's just nice to see all that. And then Humboldt Transit Authority also continues to work on bringing in zero carbon transportation. So with hydrogen and solar for their buses. They're also working on what's called the Earth Center, which will provide housing, a partnership with the city and the university to provide housing in a transportation hub in Eureka. So some pretty exciting things that will end up being seen by the rest of the state as really leading the way in a lot of these initiatives. So also, I know there's not a ton of folks here. I appreciate your being here. I wish everyone was here because every year we ask for a transportation needs. And it's an annual process where all of the municipalities ask for transportation needs and provide input. Humboldt Transit Authority is struggling to keep drivers, but is also investing in creative ways to provide more options for folks to use transportation. So I encourage everyone, maybe if they read the minutes to the meeting, they'll see that we really do want your input. Being on that board, I will take that information to the organization so that we can try to have more service to this part of the county. So we're a small area, but it's still important. So that's what's going on. Oh, and I did have a question for the council. If anyone was able to attend the meeting last week about the interchange that's happening with the Rancheria, can we get just a little or is it? There we go. Never mind.
So that's
I missed that. My bad.
Yeah, so Councilor Breckenridge, myself, Eli was there. Jack, were you there?
Yes, I was there.
I thought I saw you. Okay. So I think almost everyone was there, and Eli has it in his staff report.
I'm sorry. I missed
That's okay.
that. Yeah.
No worries.
Thank you. That's for me.
Thank you. And then, yeah, so attending the interchange was the first thing on my list, and I was going to say that Eli's going to talk about it in his staff report. So I also attended the League of California Cities Redwood Empire Division meeting last Friday, the 18th. And it was kind of fun. We saw a canine demo where they took the canines were going after drugs, and they did a demonstration of that. So that was kind of a fun and exciting way to open the meeting. They did also talk about the Redwood Coast Offshore Wind Project, which won't be starting construction until probably 2030. So that one is pretty far out there, and there's a lot of stuff in the news about it. So I won't go into detail. They did talk about wildfire impacts on the California insurance market. I think that's something that plus the COAD wildfire meeting, which I attended today at 4 o'clock. I've seen a lot of comments on kind of local social media. People were concerned about the fact that we have more wildfires in Northern California close to us, closer to Trinidad. And so I just wanted to reassure everyone that we've spoken with CAL FIRE, we're working with COAD, we're in a monitoring status, but there is no imminent threat to Trinidad or the greater Trinidad area at this time. But we will be talking about the CERT program a little bit later and how that program can help us in those kinds of situations. So I think that's it for me. And the website is up and running. I want to encourage people to go to the main page of the website and subscribe because we don't have everyone in town signed up. And if we do have some issues, any kind of emergency, we'd love to be able to send everybody a text message and let them know. So.
Could I ask real quick, the announcement gave for the city meeting, was that done through the website listserv, or is it still using the old email list?
Still using the old.
I figured just because it just got on board, but
Yeah, and the
Okay.
new system that Mayor Kelly was talking about, the website requires users to go and subscribe to it.
right.
So until that happens, we're going to continue to use the existing list circuit.
Okay. I signed up because I was obviously in a meeting with Cheryl, but I
I
imagine.
made her.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
So, but it is really important. We'll do a big push. 'Cause
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need to just keep everybody see, just remind them to do that because it will be important as we have, important announcements like these meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, staff report.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with Phil Guyman, who's here from Coleman Engineering, is our chief plant operator at the moment. And he's going to talk a little bit about some of the improvements being done there. Thank you again.
Oh, thanks for joining.
Well, Eli found out I was in town, so he said I'd come in tonight. Because first, if you guys have any questions about the other things?
I think in general, while the councils are kind of reading through and maybe have some questions about this, I think there's been some ongoing questions in the community and on the council just about kind of in general, how, what kind of shape is the plant in, and do you feel like there's a good strategy from a staffing perspective to kind of really see the plant, into the future and providing water for the community, clean water, safe water, that kind of thing. So maybe starting, I guess, with just kind of your general impressions and your experience so far.
We're trying to work on our exiting strategy right now. So while it's being trained up, take over the CPO. Well, CEU's done it this way for all of the state. We've been working at the plant for I think a year and a half, so over a year and a half. Bring all of that. So I'm only coming up once a month now. First week of the month, that's what all the reports are due. I have to sign. So I train him how to do that for us. So this month I came up early. About the in the plant and they pull off the wall. So I'm going to do that instead of that file there. And we'll finish the reports up into last week. But staffing is I can only work about 20 to 30 hours a week. That's what he's been doing for the last 2 years, basically. That's what he's comfortable doing. can't do the distribution side of it anymore, but you guys have a couple of distribution operators. Eric that just retired on 3 months ago, he worked and the plant. Take his license to get his grade to the distribution. So he's actually you're gonna have a water operator to fill in for vacations, sick, retires, quits, whatever. It's kind of your backup. What do you like handed out to you guys? Kind of this when I'm in town for the week, that's when we do all the big projects. So last month there was, you know, I sent the guy and say these are the things that you talked to me about, or I talk to them every day. You're not here. So these are the tasks that we're going to work on. The other day I sent them the one that I talked about. So get settlers out, some mixing basins, intakes for the gallery, back flush filters, change it out, chemical lines, anything that needs more than 2 hands on. So we get all the big projects done when I'm in town. All of it.
It's a pretty good list. Are there questions and comments?
Yeah, can I, will Lyle, and so I'm looking at the list of 11 things that for the week. Will
Yeah.
Lyle and Derek help you with each of these so that they become proficient in them?
Yeah, so anything that I do at the plant, I ask for both of them to be there every day.
And will, is this, are these things monthly, annual, semi-annual?
Some all on weekly,
Okay,
monthly, quarterly. So yeah, these are things that are done every month,
okay,
but some are done.
so variable
Yeah.
frequency, okay.
So we're working into, look, maybe for a while, but it also helps everybody that we're gonna have, okay, here's your weekly tasks. They're proficient on all of those. Here's the settlers we do every quarter now, instead of once a year. That was makes the job a lot easier. The mixing things the same.
Okay.
It takes for the gallery, we want those done. But yeah, they're involved with everything we pull off the wall tomorrow, they're gonna be with, I just didn't want them to have. Everything has electrical plumbing.
As long as all this stuff is in some kind of schedule, right? Because I can't
Yeah.
keep track of this, I'm sure. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions at this point? Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. So regarding the staff report, I mentioned in it that Leffenholz Creek flow measurement, it was done last Friday, and it was 1.129 CFS. I can mention the Van Wyck Trail. So the California Coastal Commission will be meeting in Crescent City. And I say in there, the Elk Valley Rancheria Casino, but they're actually meeting at the Elk Valley Rancheria's meeting room, which is separate from the casino. It's near their prior casino. They've since built a new one. So this is on Howland Hill Road. And that will be going on the 6th, 7th, and 8th. And specifically September 6th, they're planning on addressing the Van Wyck Trail. We had closed the trail from input from our insurance company previously. We had talked about reopening the trail, and then we got a resolution from the Yurok tribe saying to keep the trail closed. And then there was an appeal to the Coastal Commission. Appeal to the Coastal Commission will be heard September 6th. We also had our insurance company this morning. Representatives was here to the site to see the current condition of it, and he's going to be preparing a short report that can be shared with the city council, the city, and the Coastal Commission. He had also appeared in a meeting that we had on a staff level, our planner and the insurance company, along with the Coastal Commission, discuss the current condition of the trail. So that meeting will be on the 6th. Then the next thing I mentioned was the proposed Trinidad interchange and road improvements. This address, as was mentioned last week, was the public meeting. And it was held the Trinidad Rancheria. There was a good turnout. Public, a lot of the people who attended were residents from either Scenic Drive or West Haven, other residents from the city, and some of the council members. And, so the presentation was made to the public. Initially, they were talking about just doing the presentation to discuss potential interchange improvements. Those 2 improvements, originally they started with 8 designs. They narrowed it down to 2 designs. One of them is called 3D and one is called 5C. The 3D one would add an additional interchange that would be 1.2 miles south of the current Trinidad interchange. It would be a dog bone, diamond-shaped design, a small bridge, and an auxiliary lanes for entrance and exit off of the freeway in order for people to slow down and pick up speed and they're entering or exiting the interchange. 5C would not put in a new interchange on the 101, rather than improve the existing Trinidad interchange by adding a roundabout at Main and Scenic. The improvements to Scenic would also add lanes for pedestrians and bicyclists, as well as putting in some retaining walls along Scenic. Because Scenic has had some issues. Also, in 5C, there would be, instead of the interchange added, there would be a pedestrian bicycle bridge that would go across the 101 to connect the 2 sides of the Trinidad Rancheria. Since once the 101 was split up, the Trinidad Rancheria. It was also mentioned previously that day before the public meeting in the evening, on the staff level, we had a meeting. Josh Wolf from GHD, Trevor Parker from SHM, and myself had attended that meeting with the 2 representatives from QK4, which are the ones who are doing the design. Also representatives from the Rancheria and from Caltrans who were on. So at that point, they did mention that they would be interested in doing a presentation at a future city council. So we can make that arrangement. And this way you can see the visuals. The visuals were very well done. And this way, more people in our public, in our city could see it also. So are there any questions regarding that? Yes.
If I may add, I thought I remember them saying that the meeting we went to was just to share the designs, but there would be an actual public meeting upcoming when people could participate in this.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was the plan. They ended up, at least at this meeting, at the end of it, they allowed questions, and there was a very good interaction between the Rancheria and the residents who are in West Haven and Scenic, and it seemed productive. So I was impressed with that. But yes, there will be another meeting that they will hold where they will be talking and giving the opportunity for questions and answers. The other thing I mentioned was the chamber mixer at the Beachcomber, which will be tomorrow at 5:30. Pizza will be purchased by the chamber, and it's coming from the Open Heart, which is the pizza that's over here right by the Beachcomber. And then the Beachcomber is going to be supplying beer and wine. And then chamber members will get 2 tickets. drinks, and other people are encouraged to become chamber members. And I think they're gonna do a ribbon cutting for the beachcomber. They talked about it, but I didn't get the final word. But that's the thought, since there is new ownership there. The other thing I did want to mention is I got an email from PG&E talking about an issue that's dear to Jack's heart, Jack Tuttle, and that is the underground. So we currently have a very minimal amount of money available in the account, which is $2,146. However, what they said is they are ending the program and they're going to be distributing the money to different underserved communities. And I told them, I said, you know, we are planning some projects in the future. Their position was, it's going to cost millions, you know, make sure that the council realizes that this is only 2,000. I said, whatever we do, the 2,000 can go towards that. So they said that what we can do is prepare a resolution, have the council pass a resolution. They can't guarantee anything because it goes through Public Utilities Commission also. But either way, we're going to try to save that $2,000, and then we'll have a resolution coming up for the council. So I just wanted you to be aware of it. That's it. So I'll entertain any questions, comments.
Any questions by the council for Eli? Okay, I'll just make a brief comment that, and I'll talk about this in future agenda items. I didn't have a ton of questions for Coleman, specifically for Phil, but I will suggest that we go deep on kind of our overall strategy for managing water in a future meeting. So I just didn't feel like necessarily he was the right person to sort of answer my more, strategic question versus the execution side. So anyway, I just want to mention that.
And certainly we want to have him present too.
Yes, for that.
And part of the reason is of course, we've talked about it. The number of improvements have been done to the water plant, and we want to continue that trend. We don't want to lose ground from what we've invested, because we have invested a decent amount of money, but we have made some nice improvements and keep the ball.
Be good to put those into context so that we can, people can, it gets technical really fast. So, to the extent that we can put it in context for an overall strategy, I think that will be good. All right, so let me open up to public comments. Are there any public comments regarding the staff report? Please.
Hello, Larry Goldberg. I live in rural Trinidad, so I don't live in urban Trinidad. But I wanted to just mention about the interchange project that came up. I attended that meeting, and one thing that was very clear to me is this is going to be a very expensive project. And the only way it can be completed, whichever mode they take, is everyone has to work together. The big issue that I see is Scenic Drive. Scenic is going to be an extremely expensive project, and the county will never be able to fund it. So given that, I really think that a project that the Rancheria is proposing might be the only way that Scenic gets addressed in our lifetime. And from talking to engineers, I got the sense it could be extremely expensive. So as a result, the only way this will work is if the county, the city, the Rancheria, and the state all get together, because I think with lobbying, you can get some of this money, but it's going to take a lot of money to do the project, and we all have to be on the same page. And one thing that I saw at the meeting is that there's a lot of, I would just say, separate contingencies that were there. And there are people on South Scenic that want their area done, and that's going to be even more expensive. So the fact is that everyone has to come together, and I would encourage the council to work closely with the Rancheria. This is one area where the Rancheria, the tribe, and the council can form a unified bond. And I think this would be a great opportunity for cooperation. So I support the project. I understood it take over 20 years to get to this point. I hope it doesn't take another 20 years to get it done. But I do think it's a well thought out project and well worth everyone kind of pulling together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other public comments regarding the staff report? Thank you very much, Eli. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to the consent agenda, or I'm sorry, items from the floor. So at this time, members of the public and speak on items not on tonight's agenda for up to 3 minutes or so. Yes, I see a hand raised, so Ms. Levine.
In looking over the packet, this jumped out at me, a very odd few paragraphs that actually made me laugh. So I'm gonna just give you a brief overview of what it was. It's under the contract with the Animal Control Services on page 4, and it's on page 88 of the packet, number 17. I am not making this up. Trinidad is not knowingly engaged in the research, development, production, or testing of nuclear warheads or nuclear weapon systems. The city agrees to notify the county immediately if it becomes a nuclear weapons provider. At which time the county will immediately terminate the agreement to comply with Humboldt County's nuclear-free ordinance. On to more
Thank you for that.
down to earth. Related to resolution 2021-02, the Water Advisory Committee. So the purposes and objectives were to analyze potential options of water sources and provide a public forum to address and discuss water concerns. I think it's really important to time and energy into accomplishing the purposes and objectives of the Water Advisory Committee before it potentially comes up for review. The council passed an ordinance or amendment, but that it's going to come up for review in 3 to 5 years. That was almost 2 years ago. So now it's potentially coming up to review in 1 to 3 years. I think we need to do a very careful financial analysis comparing the ongoing costs of the Humboldt plant compared to getting potable water delivered from Humboldt Bay. Careful analysis of the firefighting capability of the Humboldt plant compared to water from Humboldt Bay. And we need to address the concerns of having a more substantial water source leading to undesirable development, controls of development. And there's other things that hopefully the WAC, Water Advisory Council, will actively take on. They have not been meeting on a regular basis, and possibly would like to evaluate adding some people to the Water Advisory Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Paula. And I will apologize for not getting the WAC set up as the Water Advisory Committee set up as rapidly as I would like. I've had some trouble getting, just kind of getting a quorum on dates, but I added it to my to-do list for tomorrow and I will get that set up. So thank you for reminding me. Other public comments?
Mike Morgan, 516 Woods. So this issue for me came up when I wanted to appeal planning commission decision to the council. And I worked with Gabe a couple times, for a few months, and tried to sort it out. So that special department. That's just a letter, how to do this. We got to the point where we talked to Trevor, and I spoke with the mayor about this a little bit too. They said, you know, we should really have this a little section on our website, our new website, you guys find that has the forms, and here's what you do, and it's in layman's terms, not just legal stuff. And it has me up by the state, blah, blah, blah. Something very simple to do. Well, then it got complicated for me. Because I started thinking, well, if we're doing this for planning, it seems to be straightforward in the conversations. And if they're like straightforward. I'd also like to see it for all ordinances and resolutions and any action the council takes. So we can maybe avoid some of the fiasco I went through council into lawsuits. So I submitted a detailed letter in public comment, but I just want to talk a little bit about it. So that's the motivation behind this is that if I had known about the ordinance at the time, we had received it on time, and had time to review it, there's a couple different options that could happen. We could call for a public hearing on it before we go to the court system and get all the legal system involved. And I was just looking for some way, and this would require another more information. There's legal buffers in between just going and suing over an ordinance that you guys passed, and maybe we need to know. So I'm going to talk to Cheryl about it. We're going to work on it a little bit more, and I'll answer the next council. But that's my goal, is to try to provide a buffer before we just everything spins out of control, and anybody else has to go through what time.
Thank you. Other public comments? All right, with that then, thank you everyone, and we'll move on then to tonight's consent agenda. So let me start, I guess, first with the council. Are there any questions or comments, changes that you want to make to the consent agenda? Okay, I see none. What about members of the public? Is there anyone who would like to make a change to the recommended change to the consent agenda? Okay, there are no hands showing, so back to the council. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. So the consent agenda is approved. And we'll then move on to our reordered agenda. So the first item tonight will be the discussion decision regarding a contract with Humboldt County Sheriff's Office to provide animal control services to the city of Trinidad. Hello.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Andrea, and I am the animal control and facilities manager. So I am the direct supervisor for the county animal control officers and the animal shelter in McKinleyville. And I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have regarding what potential services the county would be providing under this contract.
Thank you. Do any of the councilors have questions off the top of your head? Okay, I have a quick one, which is if we complete this contract, then does it mean that animal control will do sort of proactive patrols through Trinidad, or is it just a response when called?
More often than not, my animal control officers are responding to calls for service that are received. But if they're in the area, they will do patrol checks and that kind of stuff. You have to keep in mind that there are 4 animal control officers for the county. And that means that they are going from Shelter Cove to Willow Creek to Phillipsville, up to Oregon. So they're all over the place. It was just recently that we received our 4th animal control officer and able to fill that position. And that's why let Captain Quinnell know that I didn't see having a full-time contract with the city to be that impactful as far as like number of calls for service and our ability to respond to them. Our animal control is staffed 7 days a week, excluding holidays. And sometimes when someone's on vacation or they're out sick. That's typically on the weekends that I don't have an animal control officer if someone's out. Because generally during the week, I have more than one working day. So their response times will depend on where they happen to be at the time that the call is received. You know, if I only have one working in the field that day and they are currently in shelter cove, it's gonna be a little while. But if they're down at the shelter, they'll, be able to respond pretty quickly. Many things are handled by phone. It really depends on what the situation is. But if it's a loose dog, especially if it's an aggressive dog, a deputy would respond if animal control was not available.
Okay, so that was gonna be the second part of my question, was whether the law enforcement would respond in, and it sounds like the answer is yes, if you're not available.
If we're not available, and if they're able as well, there's staffing issues with all throughout the sheriff's department. So if they're able to, they'll respond, yes.
And we have had a couple of dog attacks, and we made national news, and so, and we've had, citizens injured pretty seriously by dog attacks. And so I guess one, thought I had was, is there something proactively, like from the animal control perspective, is there like awareness campaigns, or, is there a public sort of education that we should be doing to help people kind of mitigate those kinds of situations? Or
Well, you have there's three in particular that pop in my head as specific incidences that I know of that were big. The one with the poodles, I don't know. That could have been handled probably or mitigated by hearing that this guy was coming and letting his poodles run loose and having animal control respond and warn him, or even cite him about having them run loose. The incident with the dog versus dog attack that resulted in a fight as well. That dog had never been heard of prior to that incident. And so she had been kept secure. There hadn't been any complaints that I was aware of. So that was an accident by the owner and not securing his door and falling asleep on his couch when the dog got out and he didn't know she was out, et cetera, et cetera. It's the story I was given. And then trying to remember the third one. It was just something similar where it was the dog accidentally got out. It wasn't a routine, ongoing type of problem. So the incidents that you're going to having more regular enforcement would help with is the off leash. Specifically, this person walks their dog off leash in the city of Trinidad. That's not allowed, and citing those people for doing so. There was another dog fight where it was a bulldog versus a husky, I think it was, and that one was because both owners were present. So that happened because the dog wasn't leashed like it was supposed to be. That is one in particular that would hopefully be mitigated if there was some sort of enforcement to the leash law, because currently it's my understanding there's not really anything that you guys are able to do to enforce leashing your dog.
yeah, I think you summarized it really well. Yeah.
The one where the dog got loose, was aggressive and attacked another dog and then bit the finger off of Teddy's.
Yeah.
That dog was known to be aggressive. It's just that reports had never reached City Hall. So,
Nor the sheriff's office. So if she was in her backyard barking her head off, growling and scaring everybody that walked past her, there is nothing I can do about that. That she's completely legal as long as she's kept secure.
no, she was out of the property and the neighbors had, after the event, the neighbors said, yeah, we were always scared, we kept away.
Yeah.
But nobody reported anything because there hadn't been an incident.
Right. So, but and I talked a little bit with Eli about this, about potentially even changing your guys' animal control ordinances so that they're more similar to what the county ordinances are, and we're looking at changing ours as well to. Because currently, right now, for a potentially dangerous dog, for instance, in our county ordinance, which mirrors the state law, it says that there has to be 2 attacks on another animal. So within a 36 months period, we're looking at changing that so that if it's one thing if a dog got loose and it bit and it was just a couple punctures versus it killed the neighbor's cat or it killed the little dog. There was a Great Dane incident that happened down at the beach year or 2 ago where this Great Dane bit a Chihuahua on the head and killed it. With everybody present, and the Great Dane was leashed. And that particular incident, there wasn't really any action animal control could take against the Great Dane because it was only one incident. So we're looking at changing that to make it a little bit more restrictive and give us a little bit more authority to address those issues like that. I think having the community and the citizens of Trinidad know that if they call animal control, they're not going to be told to call City Hall, all that kind of stuff. That they call animal control through the sheriff's office and put in a call complaining that this is going on. And it doesn't have to mean that they want animal control to do anything. They just want to tell us that this is happening in case something happens. Then that gives us a little bit more information. So that we're able to address chronic dog problems, specific areas like, I know that the state beach is a chronic issue. Unfortunately, that would not fall within our jurisdiction because it's state parks. But if my animal control officers are in the area, they see a loose dog, they'll catch it or try to and address the issue.
If I'm not mistaken, you said that the county follows the state anyway. So, right, we talk about that, how, dog walking in this area, no one really knows when they're city, county, state, you know what I mean? So I really appreciate the fact that we're all kind of aligning with the same, at least we're headed in that direction, that we're all aligning with the same rules.
Yeah.
So that it's less confusing for folks about what the rules are wherever they are.
Yeah.
It's all the same. There's nothing to memorize other than what the rules are.
Right, and ours would just, if we make these changes that we've been talking about making, which we'll have to go through its whole process.
Yeah.
If we make these changes, then it's to better protect the citizens. Most dog owners don't know that it takes 2 incidents with your dog attacking another animal before we are able to move to a hearing. It only takes 1 bite, so that so it does. A single bite can result in hearing on that dog, depending on circumstances. That always comes into play of determining whether or not we move forward to a hearing or not, and whether or not the victim is willing to come forward as well. Because if I don't have firsthand victim report in that hearing, then I don't have my animal control officers didn't see it. So all they have is what the person told them. And so that it makes it more difficult if the victim doesn't want to do anything.
Does that matter if they have a license or their proper shots and vaccinations?
Those things are addressed if there's an incident, but I don't go to a hearing just because they don't have a license. Licensing fees increase if we do end up declaring their dog as dangerous or vicious. We charge them twice as much for their licensing fees. I don't know exactly what your guys' system is for licensing. I think it's pretty simple, and having something like that wouldn't be too difficult. And I don't even really know off the top of my head what the population of Trinidad is, or if what your animal population is. But I don't imagine it's.
Did you say that the dogs declared vicious or aggressive double their license fee?
Yes.
That's the result?
That's not the only result. It's part of it. Depending on what's, if it's dangerous, there's restrictions on how they keep their dog. It must be kept in a kennel in the house or on a leash at all times. It's not allowed to run loose in the backyard. et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then if it's declared vicious, it's those things, but it can't go for walks anymore. It can't, if it does leave the property, it needs to be muzzled. And it can only go like to the vet and back. It's not allowed to be out in public. And then it be kept secure at all times. It's not allowed to ride open bed if I pick up a truck. There's a few different things. It's all listed out. I did not bring a copy of our county ordinances with me, but those are available online. And it, like I said, it does mirror the state food and ag code.
So, I was gonna ask regarding our ordinance, which deals with the leash law and also deals with the noise, where people barking continuously. So if that differs from county's ordinance, would you be able to enforce those provisions of ours?
Yeah, I talked about not, trying to align our ordinances so that my animal control officers don't have to learn a whole new set of rules. But primarily in regards to vicious and dangerous, the barking and the leash law, that's easy. They just would have a cheat sheet basically that tells them what the city ordinance number is for citation purposes. And if your barking ordinance is better than ours, and it probably is because ours isn't great, then they would use that as well.
All right, are there any, any other things from the council? Okay. Are there any public questions or comments for animal control? Okay, I guess not. So you've been thorough. Thank you very much. That's really helpful.
You're welcome. And the whole nuclear free thing, that's in every single contract that the county has. So it's just, it's funny, but it's,
Okay.
All right. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
All right, so I think at this point, Eli, we're looking for the council to weigh in on whether or not to approve the agreement. Is that correct?
Exactly.
I missed something.
So we are at this point deciding whether or not to approve the contract with animal control. So I'm looking for councilors to either.
I propose that we do.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we have a first and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so the animal control contract passes unanimously. Thank you, UI, for bringing in animal control and getting the contract in the works, because this has been kind of a serious issue in town for the last 6 months. All right, so now we are ready to move on to our second item, which was our third, which is a discussion and decision regarding the CERT program participation. And I guess I'll kick this one off. You may all recall that we had a presentation back in June from, and this is CERT is the Community Emergency Response Team. And it's sponsored by FEMA. For those in the room, I have some show and tell about some of the swag that you get as a volunteer for CERT. I took the training in May. It was really, really beneficial. We do have a decision whether or not to do a Trinidad sponsored team. We think that the cost is going to be about $4,100, and I outlined it in the packet. I was speaking with Linda earlier today, and we think maybe we can knock off $500 of that cost because she's been able to find some, kits and, different materials from other trainings that weren't used. And they may be able to kind of move those forward. Plus, as I mentioned before, I think Larry mentioned that the McKinleyville CERT will also be loaning us a trailer. So we'll need to pay for storage for that. But in any case, we've gone through the whole kind of presentation last time. So the purpose of tonight's discussion was just to decide if we want to have a Trinidad sponsored team. So I'll start with the council to see if you have any questions, and I have Larry and Linda here to answer.
And I did want to add one bit of information. So this morning, when our representative from the insurance company, Sarah, was here, I asked them specifically what money would be available through our insurance company for this program. And he gave the example, for instance, at Ferndale, apparently they have a really good program that's working there. And Sarah also covers Ferndale. But there is a fund that's available for emergency situations, which is $3,500. So he said that it could be applied to this as they've done.
Excellent. So that might make it a little bit easier to say that.
So that the, what's left, 1,000 plus would be all that the city would have to pay in order to have this training.
Well, if you subtract the 500, there's only 100 left.
Yeah.
Plus the ongoing, what is it? How much was it for the storage? Like a couple. Oh, in the total.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the annual amount.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that'll keep on going after. We just used the 3,500 as one time.
Yeah.
For purchasing and stuff.
We do end up having some incremental cost for snacks and different things like that for volunteers. You know, maybe to be safe, we say that we'll need so it was a 4,100 total. We know we can find at least a couple $100 worth of materials, right, Linda? So that would bring it down to 3,900 minus 3,500. So, you know, at the max, 400, 100 to 400.
No matter how many people decide to get
Correct.
certified.
Yeah, well, we have a max, I think capacity was 30. So up to 30 volunteers. If we got that many, we'd probably be pretty lucky. But we would, if we had space, we could offer up some space to other folks as well, like the Rancheria or the Yurok tribe, because they have organizations as well. They call theirs church, so tribal emergency response team. All right, let me go to public comments. Are there any public comments or questions about this in Roughbed?
What's his name? Aaron, I'm sorry. Like somebody was coming out.
So, yeah, let's start with the gentleman. We'll mention Aaron's comment.
My name's Jeff, and I live just north of town, Anderson Plain. And I've been in a CERT program before in the Bay Area, so I'm certainly in favor of it. And I think I'm even more emphatically in favor of it, given the recent events on Maui. And, you know, while the climate and the situation is really quite different, one of the things, two of the things I'm concerned about is one, how people had a hard time evacuating, which could apply to our city here. And the other was the complete shutdown of communications. So cell phone towers went out, and landlines, the power went out. So a lot of people didn't get notified. So I think that's probably a separate issue that Trinidad might want to look at. Either, you know, making connections with ham radio operators is a possibility. One system I just became aware of called Genesis Protect talks about evacuation zones. But I would certainly be in favor, because it might be that if something was coming, that you could use the CERT people not only to help with, say, earthquakes, but also to help people guide people to safe escape routes or other kinds of tasks that would be important if it was wildfire as well as earthquake or other disasters. So I just would speak in favor of it with those things in mind, learning from other people's unfortunate tragedies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Larry, did you have something to add?
I wanted to just speak for a moment about a couple of things. This trailer that we refer to is a really valuable piece of equipment for the city. This is a 20-foot trailer that's completely stocked with emergency supplies. The value of the trailer and the supplies is probably $15,000 to $20,000, and it will be, I believe, transferred to the city if they form a team. So you're gaining an asset in the process. This trailer can be set up. We hope to set it up at Berkeley's parking lot to do some promotion for the for forming a team here. But this trailer is a really excellent piece of emergency equipment for the future. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. The second thing is, as the last speaker mentioned, with what has just happened in Maui, but more recently, what's going on right now up in Crescent City, we should expect the day will come and we're going to have some serious wildfire issues. And one thing I found interesting is I was at the the West Haven fundraiser, the Blackberry Festival, and I saw the captain of the West Haven Fire team. And he said, if you had a CERT team, we could work on training together and work together because they have trouble staffing their fire team. And they could use some additional help for administrative help, for doing things that are not directly in firefighting, but definitely work with them on emergency situations. So that is an added benefit that I think West Haven Volunteer Fire Department would be interested in partnering with a team. So let's mention.
Excellent. Thank you for adding them. And I was giving kind of the Reader's Digest version, so I appreciate you elaborating on the trailer.
Aaron Buchanan left his public comment since he couldn't be here. If I may read it, this is for Aaron. As a city resident and volunteer and career first responder, this is a great program will greatly enhance the resiliency of our community, both within city limits as well as the greater area. My opinion, the team north of McKinleyville can only be successful if it casts a wide net for membership and response area. We struggle to have members of TBFD, so clearly we don't have the depth to add something like this on our own. Please vote yes to invest in our community. We need to see the benefits beyond city limits on this one. It's on to say, I have met with Larry once since this was our last on your agenda, and we began the process of brainstorming some paths forward. And I look forward to continuing to work with him as the city moves forward. There is no other entity capable of supporting this type of team that I can think of, and future costs can be addressed potentially through grant funding as well as fundraising activities.
Thank you. All right, I think we'll help us back with the council. Are there any?
Just one question. How many people are you already on board in terms of training from this area?
You know, that's a good question, Larry. Do you know how many are already trained? I mean, there's me and you
I
and.
think there's half a dozen in
Probably half a dozen.
but we don't know who all are. So
Yeah,
I put the word out.
And we did get I got an email from a local resident who, to Jeff's point, was a ham radio operator, and she's very interested. So I think we may be able to get it.
And the other part of this is, right now we're talking about Trinidad itself, or we're talking about a larger area when we talk about this program as tonight that we're talking about. Is it?
So greater Trinidad area, I think we're gonna need to cast a wider net to get, and you know, last winter when we had the power outages and the challenges that we had, it really showed that it affects not just that the city of Trinidad is affected, but also that the community around us. So I think we'd have to cast a bit. That would be my thought, but it really is a council decision. So
I definitely think we should go for it.
I think it's a wise investment of the city, like you said, to again, go with this greater Trinidad watershed approach kind of thing to say, you know, the folks who benefited from being able to come to town hall, you know, range from Sumig State Park down to Little River. So that ought to be the net that we cast. Especially if McKinleyville already has a CERT team, then we're it as far as north of Little River. So we gotta lean into that.
I agree.
And I think it's an incredibly wise use of our resources.
Excellent. All right, is there a motion?
I would move that we approve the budget and effort towards developing a CERT team in Trinidad.
We're open it up to a wider area.
Covering the area from Sumig down to Little River. I'm just going to say that's sort of our service area.
And I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, excellent. Passes unanimously, and I'd like to thank Larry and Linda very much for being here and supporting this and providing all the information and.
There's one thing I might ask, and I think a council member should be a liaison.
Okay,
I think that you should appoint one of you as a liaison to work with the CERT team.
okay, and I'd be happy to do that for now as a certified CERT member, and then we may pass the baton over time as if other counselors become.
Oh, and the training is on November 3rd through 5th here at City Hall.
Okay, training November 3rd through the 5th at City Hall, and I'll get something out on the website on that too.
And I believe you said you were going to try to garner some interest by coming up to Murphy's parking lot. And
Right, I'd like to start opportunities with the trailer at the parking lot.
Okay, and I'll be happy to help with that, and we may have other counselors who are interested as well.
Great, thank you very much.
Right, well, thank you. I know, Linda said this is, 10 to 12 years and coming, so thank you for sticking with us and.
Lots of individuals have trained, but we need to track them down and get them on the team.
Yeah.
Well, 12 years, that's lightning fast for Trinidad. We should pat ourselves on the back. We're really picking up steam here.
All right, thank you.
I brought a little bit of information for the city clerk to get to each of you. So you get more. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so we are moving rapidly, but not too rapidly because this is traffic calming to item number 3, which is a discussion decision regarding traffic calming measures for U Street, Ocean Avenue, and Underwood Drive. Since Josh isn't here, right?
Yeah, I
so-
thought we decided to table this.
Yeah, are you gonna table it or were you gonna cover it? I wasn't sure.
Well, I mean, I'll just talk a little bit about it now and then we'll address it again in October. Gabe and Josh and I had talked about having Josh present today, but he said that apparently he was thinking that our August meeting was going to be the normal August meeting. So he's not available now, but he will be available in October. But in lieu of that, he did provide us this information, which will help address some of the issues that were discussed. He also has given the cost of each. And it's important that whatever we decide to do, that we start with like a trial pilot project, probably on one of the streets, possibly either Ocean. And as a result, see what kind of input we receive. And then there would be some information posted like sign where this is out there. The other part would be helpful if we could reach out even before we put the pilot out on that particular individual street that we may choose to let the residents know. So, if there is an uproar against it, then we may want to check and try it in a different street. Okay, what other questions?
Well, Josh puts his staff, he has the staff recommendations in the packet, which were pretty clear. And he felt that those recommendations, he was confident with those, and I think. I think one of the suggestions that I threw in there was the public notification process, because every time I've seen these around the county, especially in West Haven, my neighborhood, the county public works department puts up barricades with big notices on that say, to everybody that's passing and traveling through that roadway that, speed humps or whatever, traffic calming measures for this street will be discussed at a future meeting. At this place, such and such time, because it's important to understand that, and I don't want to, go a different direction with this conversation, but streets are paid for by the general public, not by the people that live in front of them. And changes to those streets, I think it's reasonable to expect or to deliver that message to everyone that travels those streets, not just, hearing from a couple of homeowners and saying, yeah, let's do it, because it's going to affect a lot of people. So just giving people that notice, Josh is taking it in his recommendations to the next level. He's saying, go ahead and put in the speed bumps. Don't just notice them, but put it in, and then put barricades out that say, with flags on them that say these trial bumps that are going in for a period of 60 to 90 days. And at such and such time and date, there will be another public hearing to discuss any feedback we may have received, or give you an opportunity to come, because people might not have followed the meetings. They might not have realized this is going to happen. We may discover things in this process that we never knew about people's travel habits. So this will give an opportunity to do that. And Josh is basically saying that he told Eli and I that he wasn't going to be able to make it, regrettably. But he put the recommendations out there so we could actually make some movement in that direction, as opposed to just table. So it's up to the council tonight how you wish to proceed. And I think he even has a vendor listed perhaps in the recommendation for where the speed, traffic logics. He went that far and he says, I support these humps. He didn't necessarily like the Amazon speed humps or whatever that Aaron, he wasn't fully supportive of the ones that Aaron recommended. So I'd like to look, our staff would like to look at that in his absence. He'll actually be back this week. So we could get more input from him, but when we prepared this staff report, so you have some options to move forward, you know, so it's not like we're just kicking the tires on this, we're potentially moving.
If it's a rentals that we can get, or we get to buy them to do this.
I think they're you purchase, from what I understand.
So if you buy them and you decide to pull them out, what happens to them?
They go in your driveway.
Yeah.
We sell on the Blue Link. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say they get recycled to be a pickleball court.
That's the answer.
No, it's a-
Well, I agree that, you know, as much as we try, we've had 2 city meetings with it agendized and not a lot of input. It says here, ocean or view. I think, to be honest, my first reaction is ocean and view, so that we're not just pushing everyone to the other street. Because that's what I would do. I mean, that just makes sense. If you don't want to go over a bump, you just go to the other street. And I think that would be a more accurate assessment of what people feel about it, because there won't be an option.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe doing it on both streets, and I like the idea. I mean, the fact that it isn't necessarily permanent, like if we decided to opt for the pilot, then people do have a chance to try it out, and maybe there's some signage and we can get feedback. That's pretty different than, you know, saying, oh, we're just gonna go ahead and put in permanent. So whatever.
So if we buy it, we can keep it permanent, like it's not a replaceable item. It's say we like it.
Yeah, I think it's an option. We can do one or the other. I agree. You can say, yeah, we can either say, let's go with the rubber ones, which are temporary, or we could go full on and say, let's go ahead and put the asphalt ones in.
And I believe there's a life expectancy of these rubberized ones. And if we want to save, now, of course, if we spend whatever, $10,000 and then have to put in the permanent ones, we haven't saved any money.
Yeah.
But if the life expectancy, I believe it was 5 to 7 years. It's not bad investment. If it works in our favor, then perhaps we find a permanent solution after that period.
I've been viable pilot.
So one of the thoughts that was mentioned by Gabe would be to do what they do in the county, which would mean to put up the signage first. And then I think, then the second step would be, you know, and then we can have a public hearing. And then put in the speed bumps and then get input from the public after that.
Now, haven't we had several meetings about this already?
Well, the main thing would be to basically like send every resident, you know, especially on view and ocean, and let them know, or just the signage on those 2 streets. Then we could probably get more input. Because people generally, some people, you know, would show up to a meeting, other people might not even know what's being considered. When we talk about in the agenda, some people just read the agenda, and if the description doesn't really say enough for them, then they might not realize that it's really going to impact. We just want to be on the safe side so that, you know, we're helping the public rather than getting a bunch of complaints. Why'd you do this? I didn't hear about it. You know, you should have let me know. Anyway, those are just some thoughts.
I know, I understand the caution. It's also true, I think, that the more you put up signs saying, well, what do you think? What do you think? It's like, you should be thinking something negative. You just haven't thought about it yet.
The way it's done in the county is not necessarily what you think. It's more like a notification that this will be coming. And then there's a public hearing so that if people feel like they want to say something, they can.
I only thought about that because we haven't really been doing that for anything else. So like we're gonna do the crosswalks and we just, you know, we discuss it at the city council and we make the decision and then they go in. And so this would be almost kind of like going that extra mile for one project, but not for other projects. And so the logic there could be, because it's only affecting 2 streets potentially, although it really affects anybody in town that uses Ocean and View. I guess I kind of feel like we've talked about it in the city council, and because it's temporary, that it gives people a chance to give feedback. You know, that we do it as a pilot for 60 to 90 days and we let them give feedback, and that way we're not holding out to get, but that's just one.
Yeah, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, you know, spending, let's say for the 2 streets, it's going to be between 10 and 12,000. So what we do know, like, you know, when you put in a crosswalk, other than putting flashing things, you know, but if you just put in a crosswalk, generally speaking, it's not that impactful. Versus some of the input we've gotten on speed humps is that if you're living close to it, it could be a noise issue when vehicles hit them. You know, so we just want to make sure that we basically try to maximize the positives and minimize and eliminate the negatives in a way. So anyway, that's just a thought. Either way, I could go either way, but I just want to make sure that we're thinking both sides.
Okay. Other comments before I open to public comments?
Just to reiterate what I think the point that Gabe makes is worthy of us, you know, we're talking about spending city money, which comes from all residents, so all residents need to weigh in, right? Whether or not residents choose to go down View or Ocean is not as important as the fact that we as the city are trying to slow the traffic on 2 of our streets, and so we all need to have input on that. So, and also the school, right? If we're gonna push people off the 2 streets that get you out of town and it negatively impacts the school, we need to be aware of that too. So the school needs to have this, you know, the survey as well, so that they're not seeing an uptick in traffic on Trinity. Couldn't remember which one it was, because there's so many streets in Trinidad, but I just want to make sure that we're getting everybody's input.
All right, well, let me open to public comments and then I'll bring it back to the council for further discussion. Are there any public comments about the traffic calming on Ocean and View?
And I live on Ocean Avenue, so I do appreciate the thoughtfulness of the conversation, and I think a small tested change is the right thing to do. If people use Ocean Avenue as their travel pattern, speed bump probably isn't going to change. So I think it's really good to put it there and see what they say. You know, they haven't gone down Main Street. Well, they go down Main Street maybe, but I can tell you, watching out my front window, day in and day out, there's not a lot of residents that live on Ocean Avenue. That's not the majority of the traffic. So let's be mindful of that. And if they don't like it, what's the worst that they'll do? Slow down? Well, that's a really great thing. And I said that I participate, so you can put a speed bump in front of my house and I'll tell you if the noise is really bad. If anything, I want to make sure it goes all the way to my fence so that I don't dive around a speed bump and potentially, you know, injure life and property because of those behaviors. Because I watched people that drive down there. They're not our residents that are doing it. So I feel like let's give it a shot.
It's often RVs too.
Oh, I've had a Greyhound bus with a car on the back while we were trying to move my RV in on my side yard past us, and I'm shocked that I wasn't taken out. So, you know, this is an accident waiting to happen. I'd rather it not happen. And if vehicles go slower, everybody has a better opportunity. Speed limit is key. How many times have you seen people go 15 miles an hour on any of these streets? So we make them. What's wrong with that? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, counselors.
Aaron,
I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan.
Aaron also has a public comment he wanted to do.
Okay. Okay.
I'll wait till Mike finishes.
Okay, thank you.
So I told her I want to know where she lives, so I can install a wire house. Yeah, the RV thing seems to be the biggest issue that I've heard of the community. Get up and get the green zones, solve a lot of our camping issues in front of the B&B. Campers, I think, we probably have 3 balls. So homes are going to keep the RVs out of that. Put forward things that, well, like that idea of planning, that we somehow do it one way apart, where everybody turns left on Edmonds, and just sort of, that's going to, we could even living in that street. And our new neighbors probably don't think they're not very often. They don't like that. So I think the rubber speed bumps, that sounds like a great way to go. It is a lot of money. I heard it, you guys all got there, and for Katie, everybody on that street needs to be notified, just like it's planning commission thing. You don't do something to property that affects everybody without having, he likes it, public hearing. So that's a really good teaching. About it, finding out about this, just the way, or they just spin the ground. Not going to go off it's 10. Too many big opinions. So I think if the community wants them, no notion, I hate them. And if the fire department says it's okay to run the trucks over, well, that's the study, because that's been an issue in the past. We're talking about speed bumps. We have talked about this over decades. The intersection, you guys got stop signs at, for sure. Ken did a study for months. Anything up there, nothing got done. You guys got there. They stop signs. But there was a long study of temporary stop signs. Get everybody give a chance to weigh in. So I think you guys got the right. Yeah, I support the rubber ones in case it becomes a really big issue.
Thank you. And Katie, I guess you were going to read that.
Yeah.
Aaron,
To say that, again, this is from Aaron Hockenman, who couldn't be here. Thank you for continuing to pursue this item and keep the ball rolling forward. As I've shared that all of our streets have speed issues, and without realistic enforcement by law enforcement, passive measures are a great next step to help enhance the roadway safety of everyone. I hope that you do decide to support the staff recommendation, and would be happy to have one placed in front of my residence. He lives on View. Editorial comment. I do again question the need to have a trial period for this project, but not for others related to traffic. Safety such as stop signs and crosswalks that have been or will be installed elsewhere in town. I respectfully suggest that public meetings, notice agendas and the like are the standard opportunity for the input that has been used in the past. Don't understand why this project was chosen standard. Also, I sincerely hope that the city has not already partnered with the school. If they have not, that they do so this week to help educate parents of the desired route back out of town, and to bring awareness to the issue of our 15-mile-per-hour speed limits on most streets in town, and an amount of distracted driving, looking at cell phones, for example, when leaving town after dropping their kids off. I'm sure the school is already sending out information to parents as school starts in this.
So in the staff recommendation, we had the 2 rubber speed humps. We had the city planner working with the council to designate Main and Trinity as truck routes. And we had directing city staff to working with the Trinidad Elementary School. I guess my only question is on item number 1. So we're saying the staff recommendation is actually for the pilot project, right? For the 2 rubber speed humps. on either Ocean View, and I heard the council say that ideally we do both. But also just make sure that, how are you recommending the communication happen? So are you saying you put signs up first and then put speed humps? Or you put the temporary ones up with the sign?
Personally, I think it's better to put the signage up first and have the public hear. Again, we just want to be number one on the safe side. Number two, it never hurts to have more input on anything. You know, just to say, well, because I've heard it so many times. Matter of fact, in Rio Del, we did this large gateway project. We had the bulldozers and everything out there. And then two of the business owners came over and stopped it.
Yeah.
Because they said we didn't know it was going to happen.
Well, you'll never hear me argue for less communication. So communication is good. What would be it's gonna take a while to order these anyway and get them installed. So if we could put the sign, I could see a scenario where we put the signs up and start getting feedback as we're like ordering, like we do it in tandem, in parallel. So we're really not losing time, right, in that model.
So one of the things I did want to mention after Karen mentioned.
I will come back as soon as we're done.
Yeah.
1 second.
After she mentioned about ideally have it go all the way to the end of the side of the street. And I'm thinking that, for instance, on Ocean, there's no center.
Yeah.
Which means that I think people will swerve around it into the other side, which means probably we're going to have to put 2 on each street in order to be effective, or else people are going to swerve around it and maybe create some accident.
Okay.
Yeah, we absolutely have to make it that we're not encouraging people to drive in, off the main thoroughfare, right? So 10.5, I don't know the dimensions of our streets, but they need to, the streets need to prevent people, the speed humps need to prevent people from driving.
Agreed, yeah.
The streets all have that side parking, gravel or using some of the storm drains.
We just can't leave enough room between the fence, wherever it's put, it just has to, so it's site specific, right? 10.5 feet might work somewhere, but you need 14 feet somewhere else. So we just have to be mindful.
We have mentions on the.
10.5. Yeah. Oh, with the street, the street would be double.
So this is.
I would think.
The streets vary in width.
Yeah.
Right of ways are anywhere between 40 and 60 feet. Trinity Street, 60 feet. The collector streets over here are 40 feet, but the asphalt isn't all that 40 feet. So each street has a little different dimension on the width. They're not uniform, the asphalt. Ocean Avenue is kind of narrow.
And has parking on either side of the asphalt.
Right. And
I think that.
So we have to calculate that into the measure.
And the guidance could simply be to assure that there's no ability to go around.
And
right.
You can never underestimate. They'll just when you think you got it all figured out, they'll show you other ones.
Right. It may affect the cost, but it doesn't matter, right? The cost in this case is not an issue as long as we don't create one problem that's much worse than the first.
Yeah, there are unintended consequences sometimes with these kind of things, and that's why I think having it as a pilot is a good idea.
Well, and marking and flagging them, marking and flagging them is very critical as well, because the city has been seen damage claims for just the smallest potholes that have had, minor damage to someone's wheel or rim. And if you put these things up, if people aren't paying attention, that could end up being a liability for the city.
That's true.
So, we're just trying to calculate all these things in without an opinion about the project. We've heard about the project and opinion, but we just want to do it in a way that it's protected in the city's best interest.
How do you lay a rubberized thing across asphalt into gravel?
Well, I don't think we could. I think it would only be on the asphalt. You're not going to go into the edge. So like where people park today, a speed bump wouldn't go off the edge of the road. There wouldn't be a way to take it all the way to their property.
Right.
But violate.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I'm seeing 2 on each street, and then position them in a way where more than likely they'll come towards the edge of the asphalt, and there would be like an opening towards middle that would not be large enough for a vehicle to go through. So somehow, if both tires don't hit the speed hump, at least one of the tires would have to hit the speed
So
hump.
kind of a side by side that you see in parking
And
lots.
if somebody's crazy enough to want to swerve into the gravel,
Then we're gonna, yeah, if we have that happening, yeah, we may
Well,
decide it's not a good idea.
Right, if the pilot shows us that we can't achieve what we want because people are driving around, then the pilot is gonna.
if the RVs and stuff could be, they're too big.
Yeah, yeah, in theory, and if somebody's parked there, they can't go around, but or, yeah.
Well, the other thing, just since we're talking about it, there are the like the A-frame sign or whatever, so we could put those on either side, like where we do have it. So that this way, yeah, so this way they would have to hit that if they swerved around.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So if you're gonna have signs anyway,
Right.
block them, because I was thinking about, I was thinking traffic cones, but that's even better.
But that could be part of the pilot.
Yeah.
is Taking notes on that, what people actually do with it.
So let me take a pause on the council comments and reopen public comments. Karen, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah. So the only thing that I worry, Eli, about trying to garner, feedback. So the people that are gonna have the issue are the people that are not driving 15 miles an hour. Who are those people? They're down at the port. They use this, all the people that go and fish, that have their kayaks, that I know who they are, they pass by my house. Are they gonna be happy? Are they gonna say they want that? Or even parents who are dropping off their kids? Feedback makes a difference are the people who live in Trinidad. This is our community. That's the feedback that counts. I don't think anybody who's been driving faster than 15 miles an hour is going to say, oh, gosh, thank you. You realize I was going too fast. So just keep that in mind. It's all about perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, what do you guys think?
I just have one more question. What we're talking about now, the speed hump of either asphalt or rubber one, I think we're talking about rubber, but just getting the speed humps to start with, putting up signs. I'm kind of curious how much this all is going to cost them. I see there's more to it than just buying the humps. And we're talking now about possibly using them on View and Ocean, just trying to get an idea of how much this is going to cost to do, which by the way, I like the idea. So it's not like I'm against it, but I certainly would like to hear the whole kind of looking ahead and seeing what we plan to do. It seems like we need to decide if we're going to put up signage, if what kind of signage, how much that's going to cost, and come back with a total package so we can really get an idea.
Do you guys have an idea now, or do you?
Well,
It's in here.
certainly, we have an idea about part of the cost, but not the whole cost. So certainly, the way I'm looking at it, if we did the rubber speed humps, would cost us $5,000 to $6,000 each, getting 4 of them, 2 for each street. So there you're talking about 20 to 24,000 speed humps, and then the signage and the barricades, whatever that cost would be, which wouldn't be that expensive. But it's still, there is an added cost. I would say if these are going to run 20 to 24, I would maybe put in at least a couple thousand more, for the others.
Although he does.
Yeah, the signs.
Signs and paper mark.
On top
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Okay, so then it would just be the barricades that would be
Yeah.
the additional cost.
I guess that's different than a warning sign.
Oh, I thought you were going to do warning signs though.
Yeah, we would do, but we could even put the warning signs on the barricades.
It'd be possible to put this up and have Josh come back with some.
Well, he will be available in October.
Are we going to decide today about going forward, or are we going to wait till he comes back?
Well,
to decide?
I would see like 2 options. One option is simply doing, well, actually 3 options. One option would be a wait until October. The second option would be to put up signage without the speed humps. And the third option would be to go ahead for the full-fledged thing. I would be hesitant to spend, 24 to 5 for 26,000 until we get more input. And specifically, I think like Steve was saying, it's for the whole city. And really, we want the city. I mean, someone who doesn't live in the city wants to comment, fine, but certainly we're going to weigh, the people that live here, because they're going to be the ones who are going to drive here, more often, pulling out, going to the store, going to work and so on and so forth, versus someone that comes in once a day.
Well, and I'd also like to have Josh explain sort of more exactly what we might be putting on the roads. And I mean, we're still a little, are we going to put, you were talking about one stretching across, or maybe two in an area. I'm not clear about what that means, but maybe we could get a clear explanation too. So just really feel like I understand exactly what we're going to be doing with these things. But I do agree that we need to do it. I love the idea of getting signage out. So
We have a lead time for these speed humps. Could we, put the signage up and get them on order?
But if we put the signage up and get them on order, we're saying we're not gonna really count what you say. Because we've already pressed the go button,
But it's 60 to 90 days is what we're.
and we could cancel it if we get
After
a
90
dozen
days,
people who are jumping
yeah.
up and down.
Well, I would imagine after 90 days, we agendize it and bring people in for feedback and collect written and all this other stuff to get as much input as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the cancellation clause is. We might have to go ahead with the pilot. I mean, I guess the signage would say, this is a pilot program. Please provide feedback to, city clerk. Turn it into cia.gov, and we can also put some things out on the website, let people know what we're planning. I mean, I'm in that camp of, I think we can figure it out. I mean, I think we know that it's, approximately what it's going to cost, and the sooner we get started. I worry about waiting till October because that's 2 months from now. And, it'd be nice, I kind of see a scenario where we do it in parallel. So we're ordering the speed humps, because we all know that these projects take time. You have to order things, you got to get the guys set up to install them. It could take months. And so that gives us plenty of time to start getting feedback. So I'm kind of in the camp of moving ahead with the understanding that, it could be a little bit of an iterative process. Like we might have Josh come back in October and say, this and this has changed or whatever, but at least we're moving kind of down that.
Why are we waiting until October? If Josh can't come in September?
No, not the regular council meeting day. It's not.
I would be comfortable making a motion to approve the staff recommendations, but with both Ocean and View. And the idea that we would do the communication piece that Dave and Eli are recommending. But we, we kind of go ahead and get started with the ordering and the getting things installed. But that's my perspective, and
The only thing
you put it to a vote.
that I don't quite understand is if you order it, the same time you're taking feedback, with the feedback is no way for bidding.
I guess if we got, all of the feedback said no, we probably cancel. So maybe it's, we need to check on the cancellation. But in general, these things, usually it takes some time to even get the specs and get it on order. But yeah, we could get stuck, to your point, Katie, that we could get stuck paying for it and decide that nobody wants it. That would be worst case.
and that's why I think it'd be nice to have Josh explain this so we really are clear. So I'm very much for it. I'm not sure. I'd also would be curious maybe before September, if we could find out if Josh can give us kind of a timeline of what he thinks the timeline would be to get this all done, and maybe bring this back in September with Eli having more information. I'm just not really comfortable yet saying, let's do this. Although I would like to do it. I mean, I think it's a really good idea. I'm not clear about everything, but that's it.
Well, to your point, our next meeting in September is only 3 weeks away.
Yes, I'd
say
say
so. That's not too. So we can get information.
Oh, okay, so I thought
Jack let us know your opinion. You can submit it to me.
Okay, I thought Josh couldn't
Can
get
we
back to
start
this.
getting back tomorrow? Like, can we start putting out the notice?
Well, he's on vacation right now, Josh.
No, from.
Oh,
Right. You know. Yeah.
Could you also find out what the cancellation date is?
From traffic.
Or
Yeah.
how much,
Yeah, and also what the cost is for shipping. Because chances are we have to.
So maybe at the
Both ways.
September meeting, we have the communication has begun. We know about sort of the feasibility of ordering these things and not being on the hook for 30,000 and then everybody says it's no good. And then what the total cost is, signage, you know, to cover the whole street. I was thinking 10.5 feet, but I gotta double that, right, to cover both lanes. So let's.
And installation too. What is there?
Public Works.
Did we do it? Or
Yeah,
can-
I mean, that's what the recommendation here is, the Public Works is able to, I mean,
Okay, good.
Okay, so if we, yeah, I'm on board too. If we can get more information by September meeting, I just thought you were saying that Josh couldn't get back to us until.
Oh, no, just that he couldn't attend the meeting.
Okay.
That would make me feel.
Okay, if he can, yeah, if he can provide. info.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can get information from him before September meeting. Yes, okay, that's good.
But since we're
Okay.
putting out to the public about Ocean and View, maybe at the same time ask about Underwood, because eventually that's going to be something that we want to do, and we can do it all in one fell swoop. Yeah.
you can put it in front of my house.
Yeah.
A brick wall would be fun.
Council is considering September and October
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah.
No traffic
Yeah.
calming measures.
To give people lots of ways to engage, right?
And I think the deliberation here, just to let everybody know, is a good thing. I think you're in a safe place by doing this, because what I heard in a couple of these comments were, you know, why are we doing something a little different here than we didn't do with crosswalks? Crosswalks and all the other walkability safety enhancements in town, those things have been programmed for 30 years. That's part of like a 30-year evolution of how do we get people moving through town safely. Traffic calming on Ocean Avenue just popped up, you know, in View Street. It's been discussed in the past, but not to the level that the other projects have. And those projects also go through coastal development permit processes, which notify everybody within 500 feet, you know, of the proposed improvements. So there's a big difference.
These don't have to go through that.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
And I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, yeah.
This is okay, how this process.
And we also have crosswalks, even with the flagging with the. But we don't have any speed humps, so this is like something new for the community. Again, like I said, I always, after the experience in Rio Dell, I'd rather err on the side of more public input than less public.
True that.
Okay,
good.
all right, so I think I hear that we don't need to make a motion, we're just moving this.
Directing staff to, yeah.
Directing staff.
Right.
Okay,
Actually, can I ask, I'm sorry, Cheryl. Jack, you wanted some input from Josh. Maybe I missed it, but if Gabe and or Eli reach out to Josh,
That's what I meant, yeah.
what questions do you want them to, what is Josh providing?
Well, we were looking at, I'm curious, I wanted to see how many are we gonna have on these roads? Or are we gonna be putting 2 on each road, or they're gonna talk about maybe 4? And is that gonna be more expensive? Do we need signage? What was the other thing that?
installation. you
Yeah,
mentioned.
well, we know the installation now. I found that out. There's something else that it's something right now. Kind of pushed it away. I didn't write it down. Maybe-
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I knew
Yeah,
that we all.
possibly, yeah, they're, kind of overall, there was something else.
I think it's just a little more details on
Yeah.
the overall cost and the sizing concerns, you know, for people going around.
And then like Jack Tucker said, that what we could do is at the same time, put signage on Underwood to get input there also. Even though View and Ocean would be done first if it's approved, and Underwood would come later, but at least we'll be getting some input now also.
All right, I think I'm gonna move us along because we still have a couple more things. I think unless staff has any questions, I think we're good to go. Okay. All right, so the next thing is the discussion decision regarding appointment to fill vacant positions on the SDR advisory committee. We had a volunteer Diane Stockness, well, volunteering. I was trying to think of another verb. Volunteering for the STR committee. So, is it just that the council would be approving that, Eli? Is that, or disapproving?
Right.
Okay.
Consider it.
Consider it, thank you. So I would be very comfortable to support Diane in the role, given my time with her on the planning commission and the work that she's done with the STR committee. That would be my 2 cents.
I would second that.
I agree too.
Okay, any opposition? I don't see any. How about public comments regarding Diane Stockness volunteering for the STR committee? Okay, then back to the council.
I move that we approve the appointment of Diane Stockness to the vacant seat on the SDR committee.
And I'll second that. Oh, sorry, Jack.
I just, it says a recommended action is to confirm Christopher Slay's nomination too. So we're gonna do both of those. You need both of those, Eli?
Yeah, that's just a suggestion because Stockness used to be the planning commission representative.
I see that.
But she's no longer on the planning.
And confirm Christopher Slay's nomination by the, yeah, sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
So my motion would include number 1 and 2, confirm Christopher Slay's nomination, planning commission, and appoint Diane Stockness as the to the vacant position.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you, Diane.
so moved, yes. All right, so the last thing on our agenda is a discussion decision regarding the city manager contract renewal. We had some edits made to the agreement. I would not say they were substantive or administrative changes. So we're looking at putting that in a consent agenda for the next meeting potentially. And then for the council at this time, the discussion is around approval of the contract. So do we have questions or comments around that or? Okay.
The parts that were in yellow, were those by our attorney?
Yes, yes. They're either, yeah, depending on the view you have, either red lines or.
So point of order, we're approving the inclusion of the contract in the consent for next meeting,
I believe so.
just so that it can be a public,
Correct.
yeah, because the public hasn't seen the contract. So I just want to make sure. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. So I wanted to point out that it's not in tonight's packet. Thank you. All right. Are there any questions or comments from the public regarding renewal of the city manager contract? Oh, apologies. It's for 1 year. All right, so with that, I'll bring it back to the council.
I move that we approve placing the city manager's contract in the next council agenda for consent. Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Checking the notes here. All right, so next up is future agenda items. The things we want to make sure we get, we talked about the traffic calming, and so we'll bring that back. I guess I would also mention, I think Mr. Morgan spoke earlier about getting the planning commission and the city council appeals process documented. I think that's a fair task to assign to us. I guess the question is, would it be, you guys can tell me later if it should be agendized or if it's just something that staff will put in the queue to work on. I don't know if we need to have agendas, have it on in a meeting.
Yeah, we have to prepare, whatever that process would be, and then bring it to the council meeting.
Okay.
So I'm sure that wouldn't be done in 3 weeks. So,
No.
but yeah, future, exactly.
Okay. Other future topics. Come on, guys, and have all of them. So I have another one. Fire. I wanted to talk about our volunteer fire department and the county fire response and whether, what our long-term plan is for that. All this wildfire talk has got that kind of top of mind. And then,
And if I could add to that, I think it's, I don't know if we're at the point where we have a presentation by LAFCO and or a representative county to just talk, I think it's time for the whole, or perhaps it's time for the whole community to just be thinking about our fire response, because it's, I don't know, it just seems timely. But again, I just put that out there for consideration. I see that in my email anyway, there's another call for a meeting, CSA 4 group, so perhaps we can bring it up there.
Okay.
yeah, I'm suggesting these future topics. I don't necessarily mean for the next meeting, because I realize that you can't pull all this together in 3 weeks. So it's just to kind of get it on our radar. And then the other one I think that's the council has discussed is the exit plan for Pullman at the water plant. And as Phil pointed out tonight, that he's been, I had an eye on that, but the council needs to hear what that plan is, and we really need to look at the financial side of it.
Agree.
I'm not sure where this is at this point, that Jennifer was putting together a kind of public relations around licensing and making people more acutely aware.
The dog license.
Yeah, dog license. So I'm not sure where that project is at this point. I think we were kind of waiting to hear from animal control and see what county ordinances were and so forth, but they don't have to go hand in hand. We did hear from animal control tonight. So I guess I'm asking you, Elon, do you know where that project is at this point?
For the dog licensing? Yeah.
And like just like with septic suit, a kind of.
Yeah, Dave can help.
Yeah. So Jennifer and I talked about it today. We've got some really interesting options for marketing and advertising that have come up that I believe she's targeting September to share with the council, as far as at least 2 main options that we've been looking into. There's been some really interesting conversations we've had with the local radio program stations like KDKA about public service announcements and things that I think could really get the word out on a large scale. That'll involve some coordination between the chamber, the city, maybe other state parks and the county public works department. So we're working on those, and we're hopefully Jennifer will bring a proposal or at least some options back for the council to weigh in on next month.
So this would be a discussion?
Yes.
Good timing.
That's terrific. Yeah, good. All right. Anything else?
Are there any elements from the general plan that are ready for review?
Not at this moment. And then Anton from the planning commission, are they on one of the others? Yeah, they've been addressing some other issues. Right. Yeah, we'd like to get them back on track. Anton, is at each of the meetings of the planning commission. And because I did attend at the beginning of the last meeting, the planning commission, it wasn't on that agenda. Yeah, but I'll put general plan down because
I think it's just worth asking every time just to see what's going on. Yeah, because I know there are also ebbs and flows of permits and other projects that the commission needs to work on.
So that for some reason reminded me of the community survey. So I don't know. I put in the community like A, and we don't need to have that as an agenda. Or something else.
Well, yeah, I mean, not now, but I mean, once we have, is it? I don't think the council has actually voted on something.
Yeah, so they haven't.
So yeah, once it's fine tuned.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're working on a community survey. I have a draft and the staff is reviewing it, so we'll bring it back to the council for review. Okay, so that would be a future agenda. Right. Okay. Great. All right, I think that's it. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We don't do public comments for future agenda items. But Paul, if you want to, let's talk offline and I'll work on it. Okay, thank you.